Oh man, I've never known a guy to make me feel so emotional. Not in a bad way, but in a very good, positive, uplifting, nurtured kind of a way.
Yeah.
He made me feel good about being me, not for any other reason than just for the fact that any of this is happening. Just there's a piece about this expression, of my soul in this world, that my fingerprint of my soul in this world. It's just his story and everything just really kind of puts you at ease about it's gonna suck, but it's gonna be okay, kind of a thing. So there's a good sentiment.
Yeah, he's very authentic. And, I think, part of the reason you feel so nurtured and loved and connected when you do speak with somebody like that. It's kind of how we are when we do this. We record our podcasts on Mondays, and you say, I have a good week after that. It's kind of like starting your day with meditation every day. Like when you start your week with connecting with and having uplifting conversations, that sort of uplifts the whole week. And it's why I used to go to his yoga studio, Soul of Yoga in Encinitas, him and Trisha had. And what he said in the podcast itself when he was talking about the importance of community and why I have Ivy House here and why you've created your studio where you are. It's like there is gravity in the world, and there is gravity in our thoughts of our fears and our anxieties, and it is like gravity and Velcro, and that can take hold. So the more support we have around us, whether it be a place, of like-minded people, positive books, positive podcasts, positive conversations, and positive community, that all helps to support our journey of walking in a higher vibration.
Yeah, and it's funny because it doesn't necessarily make the circumstances in life any better. It's not to say that you're not going to have issues come up, or small little problems I think that's very I think I reiterate that a few times, or I put so much importance on that, because that's my mindful practice right now is getting over the expectation that a mindfulness practice is going to change what's going to happen tomorrow is going to happen tomorrow because of a whole lot of other variables. But what the mindfulness practice is, it detaches you from a reaction to that, and it puts you more into the practice of response. And that kind of came later with when you asked them, how do you trust? You take a pause. You pause in that moment when and you focus on trust, and you start building that trust. And the same thing with mindfulness practice. It's like something bad happens. Okay, well, if I meditated this morning, I'm generally in a space of, let me look at what happened. Is this actually a bad thing? Is this really, something that's a problem? Or what's the solution? And it really does change your vibration. And having then a strong community where you have more of those experiences where people are helping you maintain that space, it just reinforces how being in a situation is more powerful than what happens in the situation, and changing the outcome because of your mindfulness. It's a profound, it's a subtle thing, but it's so profound as it blossoms.
It's a nice distinction. It's like we want to discuss stuff. We want to figure out how to trust. We want to figure out how to have faith. We want to figure out our problems. We want to talk about, and all it does is take away from the present moment, which is where this only place that the solution will arrive.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because the mindfulness practice, whatever that might be, helps. It's almost like it perpetuates itself. Having a meditation perpetuates a mindfulness, and then you just create this more space. Not even create more space, that's a bad way of putting it, but you find yourself in more space. You find yourself more open to other opportunities. And eventually what it seems to be is like a so-called negative experience is just a new experience. It's just another experience come into it's another opportunity for you to maintain that mindfulness in that moment.
Yeah, just to be present.
Yeah.
Instead of running away from it or thinking about something else while that situation is happening, is just be in it, whether it's the comfort or the discomfort or the joy or the discontent or whatever happens to show up. It's just like, okay, this is showing up right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was very he was seemed to be in that space even in his early, years of spirituality. It seems like it hit him really fast. He must have been, I don't know, 21, 22 or whatever when he ended up getting into the ashram. And, and then, like he said, that total and complete darkness just overcame him. And, the practice was staying true to what spirit is telling you to do. And the mantra became, help me do what I'm meant to do, not what I want to do, not what's the easiest way, not giving up, not succumbing to, ego or whatever you call it, but, maintaining that practice and that mantra on that. And it's like if we can create a community or a space or spaces or vibrations or whatever that help other people perpetuate that experience in their life, man, that's what a gift to be able to give and create. And I loved how the ashram was a safe haven, but he knew eventually that then spirit called him not to be in the safe haven, but to carry the safe haven with him and be out in the world. And
Yeah.
that's
And yet it was a safe haven, and yet for him it was like hell, kind of like Werner's cave.
yeah,
Like, even though Werner was living in a cave, he still had all that anxiousness and,
yeah,
sexual frustration and whatever it was that came up for him. It's like I found their stories quite similar in that way.
yeah,
Here are these extreme situations, because most people don't go live in an ashram for 25 years or don't live in a cave for 20 years, right?
obviously,
And so, but in that, they're both faced with them, the thoughts, and which we all are.
yes.
We just don't live in a cave or an ashram.
And what is fascinating is, and I think I've had this disillusion. I think there's a glamour to a monk, celibacy and the going into a cave. I mean, that was definitely, I glamorized that, or that was a storybook way of being spiritual. Oh wow, how amazing, how special it is to just renounce the world, and now you live in a cave and you don't have to deal with the worldly things. And what he was very adamant about is, no, 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 no. The idea was not to escape the difficulty. It was to dive into the difficulty, to dive
Beautiful.
into
Yes.
that self-reflection. That is, man, that crucible of reflection, of ego, of burning away all of the things that you are not. It's that is not easy. It is in a lot of ways easier to just subscribe to society, subscribe to the ego patterns. That's not that hard. You just, fuck it, I want to do this. I'm going to go do this. Or, I want this pleasure. I'm going to go do this pleasure. And, and then you find yourself, deteriorating in, well, I would do this then to get this. And I would do this to get this. And eventually you're just hardening and deteriorating. And you just become this pattern of a lack of awareness, of a lack of sensibility, of a lack of, and like you said, it's becoming ignorant. You're ignoring source.
Right. You become Pavlov's dog, I always used to say. It's like Pavlov's dog. You ring the bell and the dog salivates. That's basically how most people live.
Yes. And and I think even at one point I was like, oh, how lucky that person gets to go meditate in a cave and get out of the world. Fuck that. I mean, that's not, I don't feel that way anymore. And, I never meant to, of course, belittle that situation or, but it's when you really understand how vast the wilderness of your mind can be before you realize how fucking powerful of a trip that can be to be in that safe or that space of, deep personal questioning and living with nobody but other than yourself in that space. Damn, man, that's to come out of that not not hindered with bitterness or just freedom to share that and to be in the space and to come out in the world and create that space. I mean, that seems to be the symptom of the awakening process is fuck. This is hard, but man, is it magical. Let me share it. That's kind of it. That's the rudiments of that process.
Well, it's just standing in, like, that's what he kept saying, is that you're just required to be you in this lifetime, to devote yourself to you, which is the divine, and to know yourself,
Yeah.
which is knowing the divine. And so once you know that, then you shine your light, and that's what he did after 25 years in the ashram. Is he's able to now really stand in his light and shine his light on the world. And that's what he does, whether he's teaching yoga or doing coaching, transformational coaching, or a speaker or whatever. We got a little bit of a taste of it on the podcast where he, and that's what that peaceful, excited, grounded feeling that we have talking to him, although we were poking him to get a little more into his story rather than his teachings. But his teachings are all over. Like, he's done a lot of recordings, thankfully, over the years, audio, video recordings, and you can find him all over YouTube and his website and all that stuff too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that, I think that's probably going to unfold this week for me, this conversation. But I it's I think probably why I'm so emotional is because I have a very I have a large amount of gravity for myself right now in this moment. I feel thankful that I'm aware that I exist because I think I've spent a lot of my life not validating my own experience, not validating my own value or even wondering if there is any value. And I think a lot of people feel that or struggle with that. I mean, that's the passive aggression or the depression or the not being able to fit in society. I felt that really early on. Yeah, as he kind of described, he felt disconnected, and I felt that really early on. In fact, I have remembered coming to my parents at some point, if not both, one of them, and saying, "Listen, I don't know how to describe this to you, but I'm different than people. It seems like I'm different. I don't know where I fit in. I can't, but I couldn't articulate it at the time, and I know I can feel what I felt back then, and it was a sense of, is anybody else fucking real, like, paying attention? Like, is anybody else confused by the whole of this whole thing? Like, is anybody? It felt like I was in this play. It felt like a Truman Show kind of experience, and I've had that periodically where it's like everybody else was given the script, everybody else was given the cues where they're supposed to be, and then I showed up, and now I'm in this play that I don't know how or what or who to be, and I never knew that I could just be me. I was never kind of validated in that, and that's what I think is the most rewarding. And it's hard to say that, not from an arrogant, like, oh, look at me, but no, genuinely appreciating my own perspective. And even with this podcast, Meg is, my wife, is really funny because she's just like, why would you want to talk for 3 hours anyways? Like, or what, and even the question of, like, what's the goal of this podcast? Or it's like, honestly, I just want to do this, and we just want to do this, and I want to talk about this, and I want to hear this perspectives of all these other people and what their journey has been. Not just because, oh, me, but because of how much how much it fills me up and how much it fuels me to share then the space that I have with other people. That's why I want to have these conversations. And that's enough. That is enough to instigate this conversation. And I don't know, he just has a way of making you feel really, really good and at peace with, like, this is home for now, and that's okay.
Yeah. Nice. I'm glad you enjoyed him and enjoyed talking to him.
Oh, just peace, man. He's just peaceful and loving. He just seems like he loves so hard.
Hmm.
That's cool, man.
Can you believe he's 70?
No, 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 no. That was kind of a surprise.
Yeah. And he's very agile. Like he's not a tall man. He's not a big man, but he's very fit and he's
Yeah.
very agile. And he's a great yoga teacher too. I don't even know if he teaches yoga anymore, but it was so much. It was like when I used to go to his class, I think it was Sunday mornings, actually. It was like church.
Yeah.
Because he talks just like that, like the whole yoga class, and you're moving and doing like a vinyasa, and he's like preaching to you the whole time. Because
Wow.
he is a SRF minister and ordained minister and marries people and everything. But yeah, he truly walks the walk, and as does his wife, and just so full of love. And he's right. It is all about loving people, loving one another, and kindness and acceptance. And I was on Facebook the other day, and and I post on Facebook and Instagram just who I am. Like I post inspirational stuff that inspires me, and so I share that on the posts and stuff, and then and people comment on it that they enjoy it. It's really sweet. It's like a friend of mine from high school is like, oh, whenever I get a post from Corrine, I know it's like a burst of sunshine. And I was like, I love that because that's
Yeah.
what I like to do.
Yeah.
And then one of my students has been posting some really like positive things, like here's some positive Sunday for you, and showed some flowers and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's so, like, let's do that. Let's share the love and share the kindness and share the positivity. We know what the problems are in the world. It's very clear. They get a lot of airspace. They get a lot of time on the internet and time in our consciousness. And let's have space and tune into the channel of love and kindness.
Absolutely. And that's, I think that's going to it'll be really cool to talk to Trisha, in a couple weeks or whenever we can, like you mentioned. And what I love about it is he had this profound, process of finding that peace through the Eastern philosophy. And it sounds like she discovered that through, the more Western Christian.
No. Hers was too. She was with SRF nuns.
Oh, I gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's my ignorance. When you say nuns, I immediately think Catholic.
The Catholic.
So
Yeah, no. But I do think they were both brought up Catholic.
Okay,
But
cool.
she found SRF too. That was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I was about to say something that was completely inaccurate. So, but I mean, just his openness to, I guess, the Eastern and Western philosophy as one, it as the core. The core values in both of them when you attach mindfulness, and not because I feel I'm still getting over some of the judgments of religion, and I'm still getting over some of those judgments, and then he very eloquently says, I'm not identifying, I'm not into the identifying of the religions or the this group or this and that. It's like it's about connecting with spirit, connecting with source, and having that experience guide my my truth. So that's what I was going to get to with all that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what her perspective is coming up and all that. And man, it's just, another great conversation added to an arsenal of, things that I hope give people hope, that I hope guide people towards, building more trust, building more love, building more community, finding more people within that space that lift up. And because like you said, I mean, we know what the problems are. They're very obvious problems, and honestly they're kind of boring problems because they're not new problems. They're a lot of perpetuation of problems, and that's not to diminish them and say they don't need solutions. They definitely do, but now is a time where we need to bring in solutions and have community guidance on that.
Well, right. And if we wanted to think about any 10 top things going on in the world right now that are problems that we very clearly know about, is there anything we can do about in this moment?
No, not
No.
right now.
No, and I was talking to one of my clients the other day. She's like, "Oh, I feel badly for all the people in line for Thanksgiving that don't have, that have to don't have enough money for food and they have to be in line for all day to get a Thanksgiving meal." And I'm like, "But feeling badly for them doesn't help them."
Right. Right.
And not only does it not help them, but it hurts your present moment, which puts out bad vibes in the universe.
Yes. Yeah, and now we're all living in negativity because we're not actually solving anything. We're not we're not doing anything to solve anything. We're just staying in the muck of that situation instead of having more moments of, building that trust, building, the momentum to then eventually be in another space, in another environment, in another culture, in another society that values solutions over problems. And
Yeah, I mean, and it took her. She finally got it, but it's like I said. What I do is I look at that line, and I am incredibly grateful that they have that they can get. Incredibly grateful for the people that are there supplying the food, and that there is food for them. Like
yeah,
that's where I go instead of it's like a slight. It seems like a easy, but it's like one is like creating more positive things in the atmosphere and in your life and in your present moment, and the other is just creating nothing but icky negativity.
yeah,
uh, and it's hard for people to understand because they don't understand the vibration and thoughts, but your thoughts create.
yeah,
When you think, it's a vibration because you can hear your thoughts.
yes,
So thinking is prayers are a vibration. Negativity is a vibration that then goes out into the world and is the part of the mechanics of creation. So what we feel and what we think affects the world around us, affects your present moment, and then affects beyond that too. So the more we meditate and become self-aware, the more we're aware of that.
yeah. And that's the interesting thing. We tend to want to tackle the whole world's problems, but not take care of our own.
Yes.
But we're going to solve the problems of the whole world. That's a lofty goal. I mean, it's lofty enough to try to, figure out a process that curates a healthy space of spirituality in your own world, much less try to tackle, everybody else's problems. And I don't think that's to say when you're in a moment to help somebody, help that person. Don't ignore that for sure. But if you're just sitting in a moment where you can't do anything anyways, staying in the muck of that isn't going to help. And
That's
and
right.
that's where we're at with politics. That's where we're at with a lot of other things. It's like, so prepare yourself, know your truth, have your mindfulness, and then when you're confronted with that experience of, is it time to help somebody? Is it time to witness to somebody? Is it time to shine somebody's, in somebody's world? When that moment comes, you will be aware and present and ready to do so. Th- that's it. Because otherwise, you're just focused on the world's problems.
Yeah.
So,
And
yep,
not solutions, the macrocosm.
yeah, it's a trip, man. Life is a trip, um, and it is all a story. It is all made up, but it is real. It's a paradox. It's a beautiful conundrum that is, fun to explore and, keep diving deeper.
Keep diving deeper. That's
Yeah,
what we're doing.
that's what we're doing. Woo!
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. I hope
My
everybody enjoyed it.
my favorite day, Mondays.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Love ya.
Me too.